Welcome everybody, and thanks to all of you for attending this new event in ClearPix's tool CoolTalks, our webinar series focused on data analytics and management. My name is Gianluca Nacci, General Manager of the Middle Eastern branch of ClearPix. I will spend the next 5 minutes introducing the webinar agenda, our company and capabilities, to then introduce the topics of the webinar. With me, we have Diman Day, Head of the Advanced Analytics Practice and Delivery Lead in ClearPix, and Sudhir Kopparapu, Senior Data Scientist. They will showcase our business case in this webinar and participate to the Q&A panel at the end of this presentation. On this regards, because of the broad audience to this webinar, we have disabled the speech function on attendees. So we recommend you to ask your questions using the Q&A function that you see in the Zoom control panel. We are reserving a bit of time for answering your questions towards the end of the webinar, and whatever unanswered question remains, it will be dealt with after the webinar via mail. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this webinar, feel free to share the link of the recorded session with your network. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce a powerful use case for monitoring and enhancing the telecom customer lifecycle using machine learning. During this webinar, we will briefly introduce our company and services. Why are we concentrating on this specific business case by describing the customer lifecycle journey? What type of insight we are looking for, a glance at the tools we have used to obtain it, that is KNIME, and a full-fledged demo with the architecture and the visualization through which we understand the key findings, and using the predictive capabilities of KNIME, how to reduce customer churn and maximize value and satisfaction through tailored offerings. After the wrap-up and conclusion, we aimed at reserving some time for the Q&A. So, who are we? ClearPix is an end-to-end business analytics consultancy firm. We've been operating worldwide for the last 20 years with a broad customer and projects portfolio and success stories across more than 20 industries. Our headquarters is in Barcelona, in Spain, and we have offices in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Zagreb, and soon in Boston, US. Our services, as you can see, span from business intelligence to big data and advanced analytics, complemented by web and mobile capabilities for tailored solutions. We invest in the leading and most state-of-the-art technologies and methodologies to help our customer make the most of their data, whatever the data is and wherever the data is. To help our customers achieve their business goals, we provide a full end-to-end portfolio of services, from the inception of the data journey by estimating company readiness and formulating a strategy, to determining the program success factors, and then starting from the business requirements to the implementation and the support of their BI, big data, and machine learning artificial intelligence project. All of it managed under a solid data governance and management layer. The outcome of our work spans from executive and management-oriented analytics to real-time operational and tactical data discovery, reporting, and enablement, to web and mobile applications made just for you. However, for this webinar, we will concentrate on our advanced analytics capabilities. On this purpose, I will now pass the baton to Diman Day, our advanced analytics delivery lead, who will introduce the business case and showcase our solution.
Thank you, Gian, for that lovely introduction. So today, what we are going to discuss is about the telecom customer journey in the beginning, and just to bring everybody in the same page about what a normal or standard practice that generally is followed for the telecom customer journey. And we will look at certain aspects of the telecom customer journey and which area of that journey we are going to utilize AI and machine learning to generate much more finer insights, and how AI and ML can give us value compared to standard implementations through rule-based mechanisms and so on and so forth. With that, The first baseline that we all know about the telecom customer journey is these three silos in front of us, or rather, the three phases of any telecom customer. The first one being the acquisition phase, okay, where entirely talks about strategies and campaign plans, or let's say the outreach programs that telecom organization takes into account to acquire new customers. Okay, and all the strategy that goes into this is always about, let's say, what could be the launch campaign of a certain product or a certain campaign or a certain, let's say, service, and so on and so forth. We are going to talk about the details about this particular silo in the upcoming slides. But moving to the next phase, that is the usage and engagement. This is, I would believe, in my personal opinion, the most important area um, uh, for any telecom operator, because this is where you can basically get the most value out of your data, and try to keep control of what kind of end game are we looking at in terms of your customer base. Here we talk about different usage metrics capture, or the engagement strategies that we have for our customers. We also have different programs like to instill or increase growth in terms of sales, or in terms of different products, upsell, cross sell, enhanced services, hyper personalized campaignings, and so on and so forth, all towards one and only one goal: keeping the customer engaged with your platform and products and services. The final phase is the churn and advocacy. So in the churn and advocacy is kind of the end game factor that we try to look at from our customers, or the customer base that we have. There's a couple of end game statuses that we see for the customer bases we have in telecom. One is that there is a high risk that they might want to leave the products and services that you're utilizing from your organization, or they might be really pleased, or and willing to advocate about your brand, advocate about the products and services that you offer. We would like to understand, in this particular phase, what kind of strategies that can actually nudge people from the churn vector to the advocacy segment. Okay. With that, I would like to go a little more in details towards the, let's say, the customer acquisition phase. In customer acquisition phase, the first um, step that we generally look at are the different ways of reaching out to different customers. So obviously, 101 would be word of mouth, and that's the most, I would believe, the successful way of reaching out to new customers. Word of and sustain that provides or signals towards sustainable acquisition parameters as well. There's no other parameter that signals more sustainable growth compared to word of mouth. Once we Other than that, you also have different areas like social listening, that understanding your customer feedback, or your competitors customer base, what are they talking, which products and services are good, working out for your competitors customer base, what kind of services are not working for them, so that you can learn from the mistakes or the success of your competitors, and understand what are the changes that you need to bring in your, let's say, campaigns or the products and services that you are offering right now. Okay. Finally, once you understand this, you basically structure the launch campaigns, or design the promotional structures, or the way that you want to reach out to the customer base that you would like to acquire. You are thinking of, let's say, getting third party information, and trying to segment them into different areas, and design different campaigns for each of them. You might want to have different campaigns for different channels, for mobiles, smartphone apps, let's say web, or outbound calls and so on and so forth. It can be anything, but nonetheless, these has to be properly understood from a data angle and decided based on that. All this first step is trying to do is generate interest or qualify or filter the list of probable customers that you have the highest chance of, let's say, acquiring. So there are different signals that you would like to look for or keep track of. The helpline calls that come in, the store visits that happen, the number of the different ad clicks that happen in different web and mobile channels, and so on and so forth. Based on that interest, you try to convert them and think of different acquisition offers, like, let's say, a very cool subscription offer or a first purchase offer that you would like to present to those customers to convert them very quickly and very easily. So this is all that goes around in the acquisition phase. In the second one that we talk about is the usage and engagement. Usage and engagement, as you see in this dotted outer circle that we have, it's kind of a cycle. Okay, and let me try to explain it a little bit. So we have three areas. One is the usage, one is the engagement, then you have the growth. And once you have growth, it again feeds back to more usage, and it gives you more opportunities for engagement, and again the opportunities for doing more growth, let's say, opportunities. Now in usage, what we are trying to look at is how do we identify or measure usage. It can be through repeat orders, consecutive recharges, month on month, continued interest in terms of new offers, new promotions, and so on and so forth. They are engaged, or they're willing to know more about the information that are being provided. They are continuously looking for better offers and better services, and so on and so forth. Once you have identified these usage, or high usage, or even, let's say, low usage customers as well, you can strategize different ways of targeting these customers or engaging with these customers in different ways. So high revenue generating customers or high usage customers can be provided certain special offers or special benefits, or let's say deluxe or luxury services that the other bracket might not be wanting to go for. And these kind of personalized communication is very important. Okay, at the end of the day, through your different let's say business touch points that you have, every time you have an existing customer walk into your branch to discuss, let's say, certain challenges that they're facing, or let's say they are calling into the call center executive for a particular issue resolution. These are all business touch points where you can interact with the customer, know a little more about themselves and the way that they are interacting with your products and services, and understand and decide what kind of additional value and experience you can deliver for them. Okay, and that's where you have different engagement metrics to be captured, and so on and so forth. After you do this, depending on the engagement metrics, depending on the usage metrics, you can come up with different strategies for upsell, cross sell, or let's say next best action, what kind of service that you would need to provide to this particular customer segment or customer, and signal them towards, or nudge them towards the growth factor. Okay, and not all people are looking for more and more, let's say, economical benefit, but they are at times looking at better service. So you need to understand, okay, which segment of customer is looking for better products and which customers are looking for better service. Based on that, you can essentially decide what kind of growth mechanisms you can apply for those different segment of customers and let's say individual customers as well. With that, we move on to the last bracket, that is the churn and advocacy. In the churn and advocacy, we have, I think we have touched upon this a little bit. We talked about two branch outs. One is churn and retention, and the other one was the advocacy. But there's also the probability of win backs, which is very low in numbers, but it's nonetheless an area that you would like to uh, delve into if your churn and retention and advocacy areas are sorted out. But most important among these would be the churn and retention. It's very well known acquiring a new customer is almost 10 times more expensive than retaining a customer. So for that and that reason only, you have to be very careful and have proper decision making uh, done in this area. We are talking about understanding lifetime value of customers. We are trying to understand which customers are high risk and what kind of offers that we can give them. Is there any kind of rapid resolution, let's say, framework we can have for high risk customers? So these are areas or strategies that any telecom would like to look at or think about. Then you have the best case scenario, that is of advocacy through different programs like, let's say, referrals or loyalty or reward programs, or let's say even in today's world, usage and engagement based gamification advocacy models would be really interesting things that you would like to build for your platform. Now, with that, we basically come up with the third silo, that is about win back. Win back is essentially talking about customers that might have already left your platform, let's say round about 6 months or back. And the strategy here is to trying to understand if there are any possibility of reaching out to them directly with some follow-up communications, or maybe some lucrative promotional offers. What kind of marketing can you do for them, and so on and so forth. Okay, and all these things needs to be strategized again. And there are multiple decision-making factors that come into these areas when we try to go deep into these topics. With that, we basically come to an understanding, okay, what an end-to-end telecom customer journey looks like. And before we go into the demo scenario, we would like to take a brief moment to explain the platform, that is the KNIME analytics platform that we have used to build the solution. Um, KNIME is one of the, I would say, one of the oldest and still in today's world leading uh, end-to-end AI and enterprise AI platform, where you can not only build or wrangle data, or let's say build your models, visualize them, but also build that end-to-end pipeline, deploy them, manage them, monitor them, and also expose proper APIs for your enterprise business decision touchpoints to consume and optimize. Okay, so there are two components which basically goes into this. One is the on the left hand side, that is KNIME analytics platform. That's the developer IDE, where you have different extensions. So extensions and nodes and integration capabilities and so on and so forth. KNIME almost the number is still growing. They have almost 4,000 and counting number of nodes in variety of domains, from mostly used aspects like data wrangling, or let's say connectors to different databases and so on and so forth, to all the way up to, let's say, data science or deep learning based implementations. At the same time, they also have specialized nodes to take care of specific areas like, let's say, genome mapping, or let's say gene data sequencing, or let's say how to process data directly from the cloud, and so on and so forth. All these are possible through the generous and the large community that KNIME has had in the last few decades. They also have some of the partners come and build extension nodes for them, which are also really useful at times. But some of them might be paid, not free like the other KNIME extensions, the integrations, or the community extensions that you have. On the production side, you have the KNIME server that basically has two components. One is the web portal, where you can have web-based administration portal. You can have web-based analytical pipelines for your business users. And finally, you have the options of exposing machine learning models or the AI services that you have in the form of REST APIs that can be consumed in a very lightweight fashion in your business operational spectrum. With that, we'll move on to the demo and the scenario that we're trying to talk about today. So again, as I said in the beginning, we are not going to talk about what is churn. I'm sure everybody have heard about what telecom churn means, and I'm also sure that you might have already looked at tons of telecom churn webinars in the past. What we are going to look at and discuss today is what happens after you decide a customer is about to churn, and how can AI and ML can help you in that. We all know, we have all seen that, okay, if I build a model for identifying churn, that helps me identifying, and that gives me a measure that, okay, there's a 90% probability that this particular customer is about to churn. But what do we do after that? There's still at least a few more questions that needs to be answered and few more decisions that needs to be made with that particular customer. How do we solve or answer those questions or take those decisions? Okay, that is what we are going to discuss today. So let me talk about a scenario where, let's say, a customer calls into a call center, and the call center executives looks at his dashboard and looks at all the, let's say, historical usage and engagement metrics, and let's say the last time the customer has called, and all the dimensional attributes and so on and so forth. What kind of segment that this customer falls into, and etc., etc. At the same time, let's say the first place where machine learning is going to enable you is, let's say, add an additional button on the screen, or let's say in the table that it is looking at all this information to identify, okay, whether this customer is, what's the probability of risk of this particular customer. Okay, basically flagging whether this customer is going to churn or not. That's the first question we need to answer. For that, we build one model. Okay, once we identify, let's say there's a customer who has called in, and the likelihood of that customer churning out, let's say, is 90%, or let's say 70%. Uh, what kind of the next point, or the next question that comes into the call center executive's mind is, what do I do to this customer? What kind of help that I can provide this customer with, that they would accept that help and retain, and they would be content with that particular offer that we are giving them, and they would be retained in the platform. So if I frame a very business question on this, which offers can help me retain this customer? So that's the next question. And to solve this question, or to answer this question, what we can do is we can build a recommendation engine in the backend that you have. So looking at all the data, looking at all the prior cases where customers were about to leave, and the kind of different offers that were presented to them, you can try to get a feel that, okay, which of the customers selected which offers, and basically come up with a model, recommendation model that can predict, okay, this customer would likely to take this offer. Okay, now let's say we have this same customer, and the moment we run this recommendation engine, and like most of you guys watch Netflix, uh, the moment you land on the Netflix homepage, you have multiple movies that are in front of you, but they're in an order. That's the important part. So we are going to also talk about the same thing here. Among the offers that are eligible to be given to this particular customer, which offer will have the highest likelihood of acceptance? And remember, we're not talking about profitability here, or let's say we are not talking about, although we can talk about that, and that's another question that might also be important to be answered. But let's say for now, we are trying to, the priority here is to convert this high risk customer into being retained. So the question that, in my opinion, would be most important or most relevant is, what would be the likelihood acceptance for these offers that we have provided them, and we try to select the offer that has the highest likelihood. And the moment the the customer accepts that particular offer, it automatically gets retained, and that's what we are trying to solve here. So as you have seen, when we talk about telecom churn, it's not about just identifying. It's also what other decisions that you have to take from that point. Okay, and these are the two questions that we have thought of. At any point of time when you're thinking of solving a particular business area, what we need to break down is this journey of decision making that we need to take into consideration. And for each of these questions, it can be either an AI model or maybe a BI metric that can help you take a call. With that, let me get into the demo. So what you have in front of you is the workflow that we are going to run in the KNIME web portal. So we quickly run the workflow, and we have already uploaded the CSV file with the ad hoc test cases that we would like to predict the churn for and the consecutive question that we want to answer. Okay, we go next. What we are looking for here is the list of customers that were part of that CSV file. And we would like to get a feeling of what are the different attributes that it has, like tenure, phone service, paperless billing or not, all the different attributes that we have actually considered while training the model and so on. So this also gives the, let's say, the call center executive a view of what are the, let's say, dimensional or BI metrics pertaining to this particular customer. But the most important thing that we are looking at here is these two columns, the second and third column. That is the probability of churn, that is equal to yes. That means what's the probability that this customer is going to churn, and the label that yes or no. Yes means, of course, the customer is going to leave the platform, and no means it's going to stay back. Now, let's say this is the customer, or these are the customers that we would like to know a little bit more about. Or let's say we would like to find out for these customers that are saying that, okay, they would like to leave the platform, what would be the recommended offers for these people. So we click next, and let's see what the machine tells us. So they have given us 5 recommendations per customer. Okay, and what we would like to do here is, let's say for customer 8, we see that, okay, first recommendation is free 100 SMS per day, or free upgrade to next year, or 50% discount on the next 3 months. Okay, and these information are nothing but offers that has been agreed with the business, let's say. So let's not go into the details. This is just a simulation, and we are looking at these offers and trying to build a recommendation platform based on the past behavior of past customers who were planning to leave, and what kind of offers were given to them, and which customer, let's say, accepted which offers. And based on that information, we would like to build this model. Now, the next answer that we would like to solve is, let's say for customer 8, we would like to understand which of the offers has what kind of acceptance likelihood. So let's say here for the first recommendation, you have 46% probability. For the next one is 41.47, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, it's already done the sorting for you and given you the recommendations in terms of the acceptance likelihood. So the call center executive can now take a call whether to go for the, let's say, the first recommendation, or based on the guidelines, they can go immediately for the first recommendation. But based on the context, let's say there is a probability that the customer has called in, let's say for some contextual issue, that they are having some issues with the discounts. So an earlier discount which was promised to them was not given to them. So instead of going for first and the second recommendation, they can jump on the third recommendation, which talks about, okay, we are sorry about that we failed to give you the discount for your last 2 bills. Let's do this. We'll correct. Let's say we keep the billing whatever has been done so far, but for the next 3 months we'll give you this 50% discount on the bills that you generate. And maybe that's more relevant, and a human person can take a better call on that. But nonetheless, what we have enabled through all these things is not leaving the decision making of such a crucial business touch point in the hands of your call center executive. This entire thing is driven through data, through past patterns, and so on and so forth. And that's what we are trying to do here today. So what we will do now is we'll also take a quick look at the workflows that we have built in KNIME and see how easy it is to build that in this entire scenario in a platform like KNIME. Okay. So first, what you see in front of you is the workflow that shows the three aspects. So as you can see, we have the scoring workflow to predict the customers and tell us, okay, which customer has what likelihood of churn. The second one is going to call the recommendations workflow, and the third one is the is going to tell us about the offer acceptance for each of the recommended offers. And for each of them, you can actually see the workflows that we have in place. Now you can also see we have built the training workflow here, which basically generates the model, let's say for the churn prediction, and similar models are actually built in each of these workflows. Okay. And as you can see, all these things are GUI based and not a single line of code has been written to make this happen. Although KNIME does provide code-based capabilities for you to take your decision-making journey through data, even at a much deeper level. But yeah, it definitely gets the ball rolling immediately with the GUI-based interface, and it can help not only the coders but also the business personas that you have in your organization. With that, I'd like to go back to the slide and quickly talk about the wrap up and conclusions. So first thing first, what we have seen today is identifying key decision journeys for your organizations and for your customers. And once we understand the decision journey, we can kind of identify which are the data points or let's say insight points that we would require to that can help us make those decisioning easier. And we need to enable your organizations uh, to take those decisions using AI and ML and empowering the data-driven decision-making culture. Okay, and finally, uh, we also see that how risky it is to leave certain business decision-making touch points in the hands of your call center executives. Instead of that, or let's say even if you train them, let's say in different guidelines and rules and so on and so forth, or let's say you have an automated platform which selects offers or selects the next best action based on different rules, you might want to uh, do that in an let's say looking at the data or a pattern that is coming out of the data and implement certain AI and machine learning techniques and make that much more relevant to your cases. With that, I would like to open the floor for Q&A. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We would like to answer them now.
Thank you, Diman, for your exhaustive demo. As you said, the Q&A is open. Please continue putting your questions inside the question panel. Also, feel free to use the chat function that you see at the bottom of your page in Zoom. There is already one question that's come through, and that is, how do you set and understand the business benefits from this use case? Would you like to take that, Diman?
Yeah, sure, John. So, of course, regarding the churn, we have an easy way of calculating that for every customer that is at risk of leaving the platform. You have an estimate. You can estimate the amount of revenue that that particular customer is generating for you over the course of a year or quarter, and so on and so forth. You can also come up with certain customer lifetime value models to estimate that as well. Um, and based on the offers that you're generating or providing to the customers, you can also do a cost benefit model on top of that as well to completely capture what kind of cost that the platform is consuming, in contrast to that, what kind of revenue that we can expect to get out of that customer in the future as well, and you can do a cost benefit model for every offer being recommended as well. So yeah.
There is just one that has just come through. Actually, it's a KNIME question, and that is, what are the gray cells, the gray nodes? Are they containers?
So the gray
I think
nodes,
it's when you open, it was when you show the workflow.
yeah, the gray cells are nothing but meta nodes, which is a combination or a composite node containing other sub nodes itself. It's just a way to modularize the entire workflow that you have, make it cleaner and modular.
Another question that's come through just now. Let's answer all of them live if we can. Please keep putting them. Whatever we can't do, as I said, by way of time, we will address them via mail. That is, how long in your experience does it take to implement this use case?
Okay, this is a very common question. There are two aspects of any AI implementation or ML implementation in case. One is, of course, the data engineering part. We need to assess what amount of data is available with you, the completeness and the quality of the data. And of course, once we have that assessment done, we basically lay out a pipeline that needs to be built to capture the different metrics and features as part of the process. So that will take up significant amount of time, and then we move on to the corresponding modeling process as well. The modeling process depends on the complexity of the features that you have, but giving a quick estimate, let's say for the EDA or basically the investigation part and the data prep will take about, let's say for the churn build, if everything is fragmented and none of the information is available in a standard data warehouse, it will take 4 to 6 weeks of data wrangling and pipelining activities. After that, the modeling activities will take another 3 to 4 weeks. For the end-to-end operationalization of having it integrated with your end systems and so on and so forth, that will take another 2 to 3 weeks. So give or take 12 to 16 weeks of entire timeline. Okay, and that's the worst case scenario for the churn model. For the recommendation system, for the recommendation model or the subsequent um, likelihood acceptance models, again, you have to judge them by the case by case scenario. It's very circumstantial based on the number of products and services do you have, how many segments of customers do you want to, or what kind of strategies would you would you like to take into consideration for the recommendation service, as well as for calculating the propensity models for acceptance likelihood. That also needs to be judged as per your case by case scenario.
Thank you, Diman. There is another question that's just come through. Is there any sample workflow in the hub, in the KNIME hub?
Point, yeah, at this point, no. Okay. If there are any details required around this particular solution, you can reach out to us and we can have a one-on-one session and discuss it thoroughly.
Okay. That was the last question. No, hang on.
I can see another question in the Q&A.
Yeah. Does KNIME have specific nodes that with different parameters create and execute the models by themselves? And also, what kind of model was used in this use case?
Okay, so again, depending, so the propensity models are, of course, different classification algorithms that we have used, along with the churn model as well. So the different algorithms that we have tried out as part of the experimentation process was logistic regression, GBM, random forest, and so on and so forth. We did not go into complex scenarios like, or complex implementations like neural nets, because with tabular data, neural nets are not supposed to be giving us significant results, but that's debatable again. For the recommendation engine, there are multiple ways, again, collaborative filtering, or let's say similarity search, and so on and so forth. But again, you cannot take it or don't take this algorithms as the default choice or the only options available. At times, especially for recommendation engine, You have to be very careful about the scale of the recommendation problem that you have, and based on that, based on the size of the scale that you want to have this implemented, the associated strategy also needs to be changed in the implementation side or the delivery side. Otherwise, things might break very quickly. Like collaborative filtering won't work for a massive scale recommendation engine platform. Yeah.
This was the last question for now. Please feel free to add more if needs be. We have still a few minutes to go. Let's give another 30 seconds and then we will wrap up if there's no other questions. Very well. Thanks a lot, everybody, for your attendance then. We hope that this webinar has been interesting and useful for your organizations and for your processes. Please do not hesitate to contact us for information about our next sessions, our CoolTalks, that you can also find available in our LinkedIn and our social media. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot to our partner, KNIME, for supporting us in this webinar, and looking forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.